All right, now everyone, welcome to our council meeting for the 18th of March 2026, and if we could please begin with our normal karakia, please. Whakataka hau ki te uru, whakataka hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, hei hiaki ana ti ata kura, hei tia, hei huka, hei hu, ti hei maori ora. Thank you. Welcome to all councillors, staff and members of the public that are in the gallery and chambers, and to those that may be online as well. We have no apologies today, but we do have two councillors that are zooming in rather than being in attendance, and just Councillor Gray and Councillor Jennings. Can you hear us okay? Councillor Gray, it would be appropriate for you to have your camera on, please, so that I can see you. Thank you. Right, we did have a couple of members of the public who wish to speak to us today. Could I invite Viv to the table, please?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I hope I'm a little bit more organised, but I've done the paperwork, but yes. Then I added to it once I saw the agenda again because I can only see it piecemeal. I'm sorry. Okay, privatisation. This is how I see the picture, okay? Privatisation of our assets has not helped the council coffers. 13 years of half-price rates for the pensioner houses. Well, we'll still be paying for them for another 7 years. Free infrastructure expenses for the new 2026 vested asset policy. Apartment block on 134 Bayhouse Street has 27 flats on it. Ratepayers are going to pay and there's no infrastructure costs on the Hinamoa block because the Salvation Army were the builders. On the last agenda, the 11th of February, I counted on the 80 pages that were in there, 529 increased prices. We've just had a submission finish yesterday, so I hope the public did see it, but I really can't see how they did because it's only because I scrolled through things that I actually found it myself. So out of the 529 increased prices for the HDC services, plus 35 legislation increases to come. But no increases for the developers side, 3,000 for building consents, a 0 increase, deposit only. I hope the deposit is the 3,000 and not just a shaving of it. Where is this growth strategy paying off to Horowhenua? Ratepayers also need to pay more money in for the water entity, a RES entity if it comes up. The Horowhenua trusts are being stripped for council use, being gifted behind public excluded doors, not for the public good either, but for the developer-driven council. Thompson House seems to be worked on at the moment. Jack Allen House Trust has gone. The Cambridge Place has now got 6 new buildings on it by McGuinness. And was there any consents needed? It's a question I would like answered, please. Yes, there is. Oh, good. I'll tick that. Cut that off my list. It seems the next trust that seems to be under the hammer will be the Electra. Horowhenua citizens made this line transmission company theirs, not for a bank for the first tier, but to pay all citizens the money in shares. The share payout doesn't seem to have increased over the last couple of years. Now, on the new agenda, page 30, it says the ward reps need, I think the ward reps need to be increased because Waiapehu have close to 6,000 people there, which would increase it to 4 reps. I see Grayson said to us at one stage, no, you can't have an increase in number, the government sets that. But if it's set on the number of people, surely the number of people representative would be 4 reps. Co-opted, too many threats with conflicts of interest on our select business committees and the risk and assurance. Do they all get paid like Charles Rudd and I? Nothing. Nothing of nothing is nothing. Page 157, I see in the agenda, Mayor's letter to the Parliament. No submissions have yet been heard, but yet this letter says it's all go. Nothing about Horizons saying no to the number 6 change. Communities need to know what costs are being extended to them and not just the 529. Mayor Bernie, Horowhenua Trust account, this is just a question for you. Horowhenua hasn't answered the questions put to them at the AGM. Victoria Heron and I submitted hard written questions to which Anthony Young hasn't got back to us. Last year you asked him and he got it, did it. Also, I see on page 99 of the agenda, extreme about risks and hazard. Well, I would like you as councillors all to consider our lake, please. Lake Puahama, it's important that you see, they have a consultant, Good Earth Matters consultant, who writes up reports. I don't know whether it's yearly or what, but anyway, they don't seem to feature on the fact that the ammonium nitrate level in the lake is well over the level of Genola, which means everything dies. This idea that the eels died of botulism, I can't see that. I can see them dying because they can't get oxygen. And that's about all my questions, apart from a letter on page 171, the letter to government asking about regional decision making in the council. Any questions, please?
Councillor Robson. As usual, Viv, great to see you. I guess for me, just on the developer side there, you're saying $3,000. Surely the developer contributions would cover some of that increased cost.
With all the infrastructure avoidance costs, like if you're a charity or have a chapel on the property, infrastructure then comes back to the residents and the ratepayers to pick up the costs. And we know of one property developer that has 3 chapels on his property, so therefore we end up picking up all his costs despite the new building things that are going out there.
Any further questions? Councillor Grimston.
I've just actually got a question, not with something that you've shared today, but something I'm interested in understanding your opinion on. So one of the matters in front of us today is looking at removing the public forum immediately prior to council that was in place during the last triennium. We've had quite a bit of lobbying from the HDRRA, of which I believe you have an association of, to retain that. However, you'll frequently use this forum, public participation, over the previous public forum. Is there a reason for that? And what's your opinion around whether this format is the right one or whether you would see the retention of the public forum?
Thank you, Clint. I think the public forum should stay in one form or another, because although I think it's very extended as it is, when you have an hour one. Well, nobody gets to speak that long anyway. Only put it out there if somebody contacts through Grayson to ask about it. But it is a very important one because it is community contact. Had we not had the community contact the other day with that lady presenting about the softball field, we would not know the damage to some degree, or all of you wouldn't know the damage happening to her property from the competitions that happened down there. I thought it was a very good presentation by the two of them. The other thing is, from what I can see, the one is videoed and one isn't. The public forum isn't videoed, but the thing is, sometimes I just want to talk to you to see if you understand the situation, and that's why I picked the public one over this one, because I probably feel just a little bit more awkward in this one. But that's just personal. But thank you for.
All good. Thank you. Thank you, Viv. As always, nice to hear from you. Thank you. Oh, sorry, was I not smiling enough for you? We were expecting also the Hoffner Ratepayers Association to come and speak to us, but they don't look as though they are here. Okay, all right. Appreciate that. Thank you, Viv. All right. So, no late items. Any declarations of interest from councillors?
Not a declaration of interest, more just a note. Item 6.1, I'm a committee member of Skills for Living and Neighbourhood Support. That's the committee structures. And item 8.1, I'm a volunteer on both the Farm Track and Livinable projects, just for noting.
Thank you. So noted. No further declarations. We'll move to the confirmation of the minutes from that the meeting minutes of Council 4th of February 2026 be accepted as a true and correct record, and the public excluded meeting minutes of Council 4th of February 2026 be accepted as a true and correct record. Seconded by Council Mitchell Coutard. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. All right, our first report is 6.1, appointments to the District Licensing Committee. And Vi is coming to the table. As she does so, can I just move recommendation A that Council receive the report, appointments to the District Licensing Trust, seconded by Councillor Mitchell Coutard. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, Vi.
Kia ora, Your Worship and Councillors. So this report is to ensure Council can continue to meet its statutory obligations under the Southern Supply of Alcohol Act. The previous District Licensing Committee appointments expired at the end of February. That was to take us through the election period. And without the new appointments, the committee is unable to determine alcohol licensing matters. So very procedural. It's proposed that Councillor Morgan be appointed as the chairperson. This reflects Council's ability under the Act to appoint an elected member to the chairperson role. It's also proposed that Ross Brannigan be appointed as a commissioner. Ross brings significant experience to the District Licensing Committee matters, including 12 years as a previous chairperson, but more importantly, can support the continuity and assist with the transition of the chair into the role. The report also recommends the reappointment of 2 existing list members, and this is to ensure that Council maintains our current list and just helps for administrative purposes, being able to update our public information around who's holding those positions. And then finally, the local alcohol policy review is due later this year. The appointment of a commissioner or this approach also enables us to think about whether the appointed chairperson as an elected member may wish to participate in that process while removing from the chairperson role during the alcohol policy review. Happy to answer any questions.
Morena,
Councillor Horita.
just wanting to verify, because I've just asked whether this was brought to our attention earlier, acknowledging the names of the people that have been put forward, the perception of potentially identified as a policing background. So I've been asked that it looks like it's just all the police in there, and I'm like, well, they're representative of the community, but I wasn't aware that we actually had a discussion about that. I couldn't find it in my notes. I'll just check with Councillor Grimstone. So I just want to, assure people out there that this isn't an exclusion process rather than an inclusion.
Certainly not intended to be an exclusive process, but it is very much a procedural matter of an elected member being appointed to that committee, and so that does go through this process. Part of the reason why this process is happening now too. Maybe to harp on about one point in the report, which is around without the appointment of a chairperson or a commissioner, we're unable to make those decisions at the moment. And so since the 28th of February, we are holding on to those decisions until such time as we do have someone able to be able to make that decision for us.
Councillor Grimstone.
I note one of the options, so option B, allows council additional time to consider alternative appointments. So assuming that we potentially move forward with option A, for the purposes of the risks that were already outlined, is there still an opportunity for council to consider additional appointments to the panel moving forward in due course if we identify people from within the community that have the suitable skills?
Thank you for the question, Councillor, and through you, Your Worship. Absolutely there is. The appointments through, the process to appoint to the committee would be through this forum to do that. How we go about that takes a bit of time. It would be going out to the public, looking for expressions of interest potentially, and then reviewing those applications as they come through in terms of suitability. At any time, council can make the decision, obviously bringing a report, to appoint further members to the committee. Likewise, the council can also make the decision around appointing another chairperson later on, and changing revoking this decision if you so choose.
Councillor Grimstone.
So just a follow-on question, with the upcoming changes that are potentially being proposed by the government, would that feel like a really good time to review the requirement and the skill sets that are available based upon what we know currently about what the government's forecasting with the change?
Thanks for the question again through you, Your Worship. Yeah, absolutely. And right now those changes are proposed, and we are looking at there being a range of potential implications that could mean for our licensing regime and particularly the resourcing that we have at the moment. But yes.
Chief Executive.
Yeah, just through Your Worship, I think the most appropriate time for council to consider the shape of the district licensing committee would be prior to us commencing the review of our local alcohol policy. Obviously it's important we have a chair appointed to the district licensing committee. Just for councillors' recollection, prior to the election, rather than council extended the appointment of our current chair, who at the time was Councillor Ross Brannigan. We do need a chair appointed today. What the suggestion around the appointment of Ross Brannigan is that those skills and 12 years of experience are provided on the committee to support Councillor Gray, but also to support the committee. But my advice is that prior to us commencing a review of the local alcohol policy, as is currently required under the Act, but who knows what might land off the back of the announcements earlier this week around alcohol reform, that in shaping the approach to that local alcohol policy, council gets assurance that the form and function of that district licensing committee, who will ultimately make the decision, reflects the skills and capabilities that you think are required on that committee.
Thank you, Vi. Okay, so we have recommendations B, C and D, and I'm seeking that we put those on block, and it's been moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Allen and seconded by Councillor Fox. So they're on the table. Any discussion on those recommendations? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Burney, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Fox for supporting those motions. I'm speaking in support of it. I want to acknowledge Councillor Morgan Gray for stepping up and taking the nomination as chairperson. It's an incredibly important role for our district, and to have the strength of character and experience that there as recommendations, and particularly to have the experience of Ross Brannigan to sit alongside that process and support it. I think we're well served. We know that there are challenges with alcohol and harm in our community. We've heard that through various sources recently, and so ensuring that we have good processes for administering the local alcohol policy is very important here. So delighted to have the calibre of people who are willing to stand for this committee. So I'm in support of that.
Thank you. There being no further commentary, I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Congratulations, Councillor Gray. Thank you very much for accepting that role. And I do want to acknowledge our past chair for the 12 years that he has been a member of that and been committed and directed that committee. It is, as Councillor Mason says, a very important role in our community. All right, we now move to 6.2, which is related to standing order amendments, governance appointments, triennial agreements, and the governance statement. And Grayson is coming to the table. And welcome, Grayson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship, this report presents Council with a number of governance level documents to consider. The triennial agreement, which is an agreement between councils in our region and how they'll operate together. The governance statement, which brings together the various procedures that council will use in decision making over the coming term. The appointments to organisations in the community, and also some standing orders amendments. The standing orders are something that we would typically have brought to you at the first meeting of your term, and given you some options around things that you might want to do around the casting vote, around how you manage speaking during debates, and how you vote for a chair or a deputy chair in the absence of a chair, and also any other changes that the table wishes to see to reflect their intentions and wishes for the coming triennium. Because of the expected national standard standing orders that we were expecting, we recommended no changes when we brought this to you in December last year. However, since then, it's the timeline for those standing orders to be delivered seems to be moving out a bit further. So we think it's appropriate at this point to bring these options back to you as a table to consider and adopt as you see fit. The standing orders in particular that we're looking at is Standing Order 5.6, which is the voting system for chairs. We currently use System B, which is a direct, the person with the most votes is appointed. 19.3 is whether there is a casting vote or not for the chair or mayor. 22 is the general procedure for speaking and moving motions in debate. We use the least restrictive option. And Standing Order 15, which relates to public participation, and it's an opportunity for Council to consider how they wish to move forward with that. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Grayson. Any questions? Do we have any idea when that formal standing order operation type of thing is coming next?
Unfortunately, we don't.
No.
So it's appropriate that the table gets the opportunity to consider how it wants to move forward.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry,
Councillor Mitchell-Peter.
just a question. In terms of the new standing orders that are going to come in, Do we have any idea about public forums in terms of what that
Won't be included in that.
won't be included?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barker.
Just quickly, we're using the default option where the chair doesn't have a casting vote, and we're going to maintain that. Is that vice voting?
Yeah, that's a decision for the table. Yeah. If the table decides to give the chair or mayor a casting vote, that doesn't mean that they have to exercise it.
Thanks, Grayson. Okay, we'll deal with these recommendations individually. So we have voting standing order 9.3, and we have the option there in terms of giving the mayor or chairperson a deliberative vote as well as a casting vote or not. Anyone like to move either of those? Deputy Mayor Allen?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd move the or, which is that the mayor have only a deliberative vote.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Mitchell-Kutarp, thank you. Any further discussion or debate on that?
Sure.
Councillor.
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor, members around the table are probably aware of the logic, but just for public accountability, an idea or a proposition must stand or fall on the democratic process where there is a majority supporting that decision. And so the idea of giving a person in whatever role an extra vote just doesn't sit comfortably for me.
And I am certainly not seeking a casting vote in any way, shape or form. I didn't request it last term or the term before, and certainly not seeking it this time either. Councillor Fox.
I support the motion for not having a casting vote because I believe if the table is split, then we don't have enough information to make a decision in the best interest of the community.
Councillor Barker.
I'd just like to commend all my colleagues for adhering to some basic democratic principles. Thank you.
There are a number of councils where the mayor does have a casting vote, and it's got them into a fair degree of trouble at times as well. Okay, so I'll now put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. All right. Standing order 5.6, voting system for chairs, deputy mayor and committee chairs. We have B or we have council adopt system A or council adopt system B, which is voting system for the two options that Grayson outlined before. Deputy Mayor Allen, do you wish to move?
Yes, could I move system B, which is one round most votes?
Thank you. There a second to that, Councillor Fox, thank you. Any further discussion on that? Deputy Mayor Allen?
Just briefly, it's simple and it does the business effectively.
Thank you. All right, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And now standing order 22, procedures for speaking and moving motions. We have option A, B or C, noting that we currently use option C, which is the most flexible and easiest way to have good democracy. So, Deputy Mayor Allen, are you moving again?
Happy to move system.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Young, thank you. Is there any further discussion?
Just briefly, Mr. Mayor. It's about flexibility during a debate. We can get horribly hung up if we get into situations where someone who's moved a motion then can't move an amendment. It becomes a bit of a labyrinth, a bit of a nightmare. So this is about flexibility and just being able to be inclusive when we make decisions.
You're right. It does become cumbersome and sometimes clunky in terms of process and things like that. However, I do want to remind councillors that they do need to respect the process sometimes in terms of how things are done. So, while it does provide flexibility, it does also mean that there does need to be due acknowledgement of process in the way that we do things. Is there any further discussion on that? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, we then move to public forum, and I am happy to move that Council reverts to having no public forum but maintains all other avenues for public participation. Over seconder, please. Councillor Fox, thank you. And I my first reflection was, why is this an even understanding orders? It's not a formal part of our meetings as such, and my views haven't changed since from early in this term, in wanting to dispense with this forum. Originally, it was created as a trial last term, along with a couple of other councillor citizens panels, Facebook Live posts, plus being, us seeking councillors to be more present in our community. And of all those initiatives that we used and were introduced, this forum has provided minimal value. I hope that residents and ratepayers would bring views and opinions that would be positive and construction and add value to the district, unfortunately was misplaced. Besides the fact that the opportunity was barely used by residents, it became an opportunity for some to often disseminate non-factual and misinformed views and opinion. And because the forum wasn't formal, there were no minutes or recording of the matters raised, and it was not mandatory for councillors and officers to be here in the first place anyway. So my research tells me that, as far as I'm aware, we are virtually the only council in the country that offered this forum. I believe that there are other forums that I've outlined earlier that give ample opportunity for residents to engage with councillors. And in today's agenda, there's a 120-page organisation performance report, which is part of a 350-page agenda. This is a document that looks at every aspect of council, does not shy away from the risks and challenges that we have ahead, plus a great record of the huge amount of great work that goes on in this organisation. And if residents and ratepayers can't find something in this 350-page agenda to raise in their normal public participation, then I think we are doing a disservice to the agenda. Adding another 30 minutes prior to the proper meeting will not make any difference to the good governance of this table that this table provides. So basically, the experiment failed and did not add value, and that is why I have dispensed with it. Councillor Mitchell-Kutar.
I just want to acknowledge the concerns of the community that they have brought forward in terms of feeling as though they're being excluded in many ways, and would like to confirm our commitment to strengthening democratic engagement and trust, and hearing community concerns so that they can highlight issues and continue strong communication with us, to encourage them in moving forward to come to the council with a cuppa, to take up every opportunity that we provide for them to be able to communicate, engage with us, and that this does not signal in any way, shape or form council wanting to cut those communications, or that we don't respect or we're interested in the communication of the community. That's really important for me to convey to those that are listening and to our community, that we are there for them, that we are here, that we are willing to listen, and that there are other avenues out there that we would very much recommend and support.
Councillor Fox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a community board member who sat for 3 years watching these, in 3 years I saw one presentation that could have been a workshop presentation. Everything else was incredibly negative. Less than half of the councillors most of the time present. They provided no value. There has been significant increases in access and ability for any member of a ratepayer to contribute and contact the members and raise issues, and they need to take advantage of those options. So I'll be supporting not having a forum.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Burney, and thank you for that summary. I wasn't on council last term. Thank you for that summary you provided that that acknowledged that you had trialled this but felt it hadn't worked. And I am going to say that I support that we revert to having no public forum, not because I don't want to hear from the public, but I do frequently, and I welcome comments and communication. I want to acknowledge the initiative of the Couple with a Councillor, which I was part of with Councillor Barker recently, and it was a fantastically well organised event with people who came and presented with constructive concerns, and so that I think has been, from my perspective, this early in the training, such a success. But what I do want is we have public participation, we have accountability not only for the presenter, but for councillors and officers, where people can bring their concerns or questions or queries about the agenda that we, as you say, several hundred pages that we're dealing with on this day. So I don't see any need to continue with that additional forum, and want to send the message that as councillors, I believe we are well and truly available, and I see my colleagues around the table attending many events where they're listening to the public. So I want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Councillor Barker.
There are many fine reasons for no. However, for me, this is very much about the spirit of the thing, and it's another option, another opportunity, and whether it's used or not, and I'm going to go with the spirit of it, and I won't be supporting this.
Deputy Mayor Allen.
This is really just a question, Mr. If we do determine to do away with the public forum, does it require a simple majority, or in fact is there a higher threshold? Because I think both the table and the public.
Through you, Your Worship, so to confirm, it requires a 75% support because it is a change to standing orders. So more than a simple majority.
Can I also ask that when the new direction comes in terms of standing orders, that public forum is unlikely to be included in that anyway, and what would be the result of this decision now being to include?
So through you, Your Worship, the New Zealand standard standing orders are not going to be a decision for council, they're going to be legislated for. So council won't have a choice about it. Obviously we have not seen a draft of the new standing orders more recently, but public forum, as you've already articulated, is not a common feature across local government. Public participation is a common feature across local government. I'd encourage the table to consider like standing orders is essentially the rule book. There is nothing stopping council having other ways of doing things in the future that aren't necessarily reflected in standing orders. Standing orders is to guide a meeting, which I think is to Mayor Burney's point, is that it is odd that it was always in standing orders because it was never within the meeting of council nor a meeting of committee. So an example is Couple with a Councillor, which has been referred to as a mechanism for engagement, and there'll be a number of mechanisms for engagement. We don't talk about Couple with a Councillor in standing orders, for example.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, you've had a range of views for and against the proposed motion, but I just wanted to chime in and say that I was pretty proud as one of the councillors alongside Deputy Mayor Allen to have kind of pushed for this to be something that we had, but your analysis of the utilisation and value of it has proven is correct. It has been a poor use of time, and it has not been a good use of both elected member and staff time, essentially sitting, waiting for a person to potentially turn up. And I think our community want us to get on with it and use our time and energy and limited resources wisely, and to continue with it in its current format would not be a sensible decision. I had been willing to hear the views of the Ratepayers Association, who's put up a strong a critical analysis of council's or your decision, Mr. Mayor, to push forward with removing this. But unfortunately, they haven't turned up today to mount that defence. So I'm at this stage, I'm going to be voting along with my colleagues to remove it because I haven't heard a case to keep it.
Thank you. Councillor Young.
I would also like to support Councillor Jennings's talk. I was also one that appreciated bringing the public forum for the community, but it was definitely underutilised. Didn't see value in it, but are also loving, the other avenues we've provided, whether it's through council of a councillor, whether it's through meetings through Councillor Gutab, who had the post 5 p.m. Meetings where we had councillors outnumbering public, but it was just providing that avenue, and we're also able to access us. Where people, public, are able to communicate through us. Our contact details are on the hawhenua.gov.nz website, or if they ever need to contact me, it's cr.allen.young@electedmembers.hawhenua.gov.nz. I'm always happy to reply to emails, or my phone number is also available, so don't be shy, guys, contact us.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to put this recommendation now. All those in favour? So the recommendation is that council reverts to having no public forum but maintains all other avenues for public participation. Put that recommendation. All those in favour? Aye. Against? 3. So that is still passed. There is more than 75%. Sorry, Councillor Gray, Councillor Jennings. Can you just raise your hands for me, or not?
So yeah, I was a 4.
Of 4, and Councillor Gray. Thank you. So the motion is still carried with more than 75% majority. Thank you. All right, now moving to the governance appointments. That council makes the following appointments, and since this report was finalised, or the agenda was finalised, we had rolled over the appointment of Councillor Grimstone to the Horowhenua District Health Transportation Trust, but Councillor Grimstone raised the matter that there may be a slight conflict perceived with his role that he plays in the St John's ambulance service, and so we have removed Councillor Grimstone's appointment and made Councillor Young as that appointment to that body. So if you just note that while you're considering these appointments. And are there any other questions or comments, Councillor Mason?
Thank you, Mayor Burney. And just a follow up from the Horowhenua Neighbourhood Support Management Committee, Councillor Barker and I both attended the meeting that they held last week, and we had a discussion with the committee, and we're going to share that role between us to manage resources and manage councillor time, and the committee were agreeable with that. So we'll both be part of that.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Any further commentary? All right, I'll put recommendation E that council makes the following appointments. I won't read them out, but I'll move that. Any seconded, Councillor Mitchell-Kutab. All those in favour? Thank you. Against? All right, passed. We now move to recommendation F, that Council appoint Councillor Nina Hori-Te-Pa and Councillor Lani Kitu to the Horowhenua Creative Communities Committee, Creative New Zealand. Moved by Councillor Fox, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Hori-Te-Pa.
Kia ora, not really any discussion, but can you correct my name? Kia ora. It's capital T.
Capital T, sorry, apologies. All right, put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And then recommendation G, that Council adopts the governance statement for 2025-26. I'll move. Seconded, please, Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And that H, that Council adopts the triennial agreement 2025 to 28. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, we now move to 6.3, which is the approval of the risk management framework and risk policy. And Catherine is coming to the table with Ashley.
Thank you and good morning. So this report presents the updated risk management framework and policy for your adoption, both of which have been endorsed by the Risk and Assurance Committee. So it's been nearly 3 years since the risk management framework was last updated. So the framework you have before you today is not a full overhaul. Rather, it reflects a targeted review aimed at refreshing key elements, improving consistency, and better aligning with how risk is managed across the organisation. Both the framework and policy have been intentionally designed to be concise and practical, with a strong emphasis on supporting both strategic and operational decision making. You will notice that the risk appetite section within the framework has not yet been completed. This section will be finalised following the current work underway with you to define our risk appetite. We held our first workshop on this last week and have since shared the risk appetite survey with you for your input. I will also be available in the ante room between 1 and 5 p.m. today, should you wish to discuss any aspects of the risk appetite survey. And if that time is not convenient, please get in touch and we can arrange another time to meet. Overall, the risk management framework and policy, alongside the ongoing risk appetite work, is intended to lift our risk maturity in a practical way, strengthen our governance and ensure that risk management meaningfully supports Council's strategic direction. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Catherine. Any questions? Councillor Mutukita.
I just want to say thank you, because this is a fantastic piece of work, and reading through it, and just to really encourage the community to understand that the council is operating at a really high standard, and risk is one of the number one priorities that any good council should be looking at, especially with the uncertainty moving forward, not just with the RMA reforms, but with the international situation. So I was really impressed, and I just want to give my great thanks to all the work and the considerations that have been put into this document. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. I too want to acknowledge the work that's gone into this. My early days in council, the risk framework would have been 2 pages long and would have not been as comprehensive and thorough as this is now. And it's great to see the advancement that we've made over the years in terms of ensuring that we are cognizant of all the risks that we have in our roles. So I appreciate the amount of work that's gone into this. Thank you. All right, the recommendation is that Council adopts the refreshed risk management framework and risk policy as the foundation for managing and overseeing organisational risk across Horowhenua District Council. Sam, you wish to move this?
Yes, please.
Yes. All right. Seconded by Councillor Mitchell-Kutab. Do you wish to speak to it, Sam?
Yeah, just briefly, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor.
Certainly.
Yeah, look, just to reaffirm that this framework was endorsed by the Risk and Assurance Committee back in February. I guess the reason for it and what we're trying to achieve through the refresh is very well articulated in paragraphs 7 through 11 in the agenda paper. And so I just very briefly, I just wanted to commend staff for all of their hard work in putting this together and doing the refresh and the confidence in the document and how we can see that it will be a really effective tool for us going forward was obviously appreciated and acknowledged by the Risk and Assurance Committee back in February, and that's why it is endorsing it for council adoption today. So would just urge councillors to hopefully support it and yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Put the recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And councillors, you heard Catherine offer her availability later on this afternoon if you have got any queries about the framework, and she is there to answer those questions for you. All right, let's move to 6.4, which is Central Districts Water, the amendment to the shareholder agreement in terms of reference. And I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to introduce this. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, councillors. So the paper before you is in receipt of the minutes from the first shareholder committee meeting, where during that meeting there were some recommendations made around the changes to terms of reference for the committee. You'll note those recommended changes, which are set out in both the recommendation B, but also the discussion of the report. Those proposed recommendations were voted unanimously by all those in attendance at the meeting, but it now needs to be adopted by each shareholder, being the 3 councils, noting that it is council who adopted the terms of reference for the shareholding committee back in December last year. I'll take the report as read and probably defer to you, Councillor Jennings and Mayor Burney, as the delegates on the shareholder committee for this particular meeting, to answer questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this report? All right, so we have, first of all, recommendation A, that the report be received and noted, moved by Councillor Grimstone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Then we have recommendation B, that Council approve amendments to the Central Districts Water Shareholder Agreement, terms of reference for the committee. A, clause 2, add 1, engaging with the company on behalf of the shareholders committee in relation to how the company shall engage with Mana Whenua to give effect to Te Reti o Waitangi and its principles, and establish and implements its Te Ao Māori framework. And clause B, clause 6, adjust 6A quorum to remain at 5 members, but now require a member from each of the shareholder councils, and Tapawai Oho to be included. Moved by Councillor Hori to pass, seconded by Councillor Ketu. Any further discussion on those items?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought it would be useful for elected members around the table to kind of understand where these came from. So these were resolutions that were made from the floor during the first meeting of the Shareholders Committee, and particularly essentially means that it's the Shareholders Committee as a whole, as a collective, so all 9 members has the mandate or the authority to provide direction on the things that are captured in there, and so that's the kind of context for that one. And there had been, I think there's still a question mark over the representation arrangements and how that's going to be reflected in terms of the shareholders agreement. And I understand there's an amendment that's being worked on, but the quorum clause there was just intended as a clarification to ensure that there was at least one representative considered as part of that quorum arrangement. So that's just the context for members.
Thank you. All right, I'll put those two recommendations. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. And just noting for everyone, if you hadn't seen or read the public media release that was made yesterday in terms of the appointments to the board of Central District Water, we are actually quite excited about the calibre and capability of the people that firstly put up their hand to want to be on our board, and the selection of those people that we have appointed, the 6 members of the board, we believe will be a fantastic guidance for Central District Water. It was, I only unfortunately was able to participate in the first day of interviews for the board, but greatly encouraged by those who expressed the view that this was one of the bodies that they were keen to be part of, as against the other 42 other local water done well boards, and because of what they saw as the professionalism, the makeup of the group, the size of the group, but also having 3 councils that seemed to be aligned in terms of what they were doing. So very positive and encouraging start, and I think we're going to see some good direction provided by this board. And just noting also too that over the next couple of weeks we will start framing the statement of expectation for the Shareholders Committee and the board as well. So that will be coming to us shortly. Thank you for that. All right, we're now moving to 7.1, which is the mayoral report. I'll move the council receive and note this report, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Any questions or commentary on that? Noting that the report also includes our 4 different submissions on some of the reforms that are in front of us at the moment, and what that entails shows that there's been a huge amount of work done in providing those and ensuring that the Horowhenua District Council's view is made on all those reforms. Councillor
I just want to support you on that. In those submissions that the council had given to the government were really comprehensive and really well thought out, and did present some of the challenges that councils will face in the future. And so I just want to say thank you for all the work that was done for that, and look forward to hearing how it's going to land and what will take place in the future.
Yeah, I attended a Zoom with the Minister, which was underwhelming in terms of clarification on timelines and timeframes and what is actually happening, unfortunately. But yeah, look, we've played our part in terms of contributing to that, which is great. All right, Deputy Mayor Allen.
Just to acknowledge, yes, that the amount of work and the thoroughness and robustness of those submissions. And I guess the challenge is I really, really hope that the government will consider the nuances that surround the measures that they are suggesting through the proposed bills, because there are serious fish hooks. There are real dangers to local government. And when we talk about local government, we actually mean local communities if these proposals progress without amendments. So I guess what I'm saying, and this is not political point scoring, and what I'm saying is I genuinely hope, government and the select committee process will show that they are listening.
We can be optimistic, can't we? Councillor Wicks-Okita.
I just want to echo that and say one thing that was very, I really appreciated was a very strong opinion that in moving forward, the community's voice and the voice of local communities was at the forefront a lot of those concerns, and that was echoed yesterday as well, and that there are many councils who understand the complexities and who are moving forward in hopefully a positive way as we are, but the local voice is one of our main frameworks that we want to protect.
All right, thank you all for that. And now we move to 8.1, which is the Organisation Performance Report. And I'll just move that Council receive and note the report, Organisation Performance Report for March 2026, seconded by Councillor Nina Hori-Te-Pā. All those in favour? Have councillors any questions of any part of this report? Councillor Grimstone.
Yeah, look, a couple. Thank you for the hours that have gone into producing this report. I do have a couple of questions that I think we'll get a pretty quick response to. But a couple of times in the report specifically, I've seen the comment about capital spending needing to ramp up in particular projects happening at a number of times. So I guess I'm just raising a concern. In the past we had I think the capital planning steering group that gives us the assurance that we remain on track, because I'm mindful that CapEx spend is a key measure that we're measured on. So I'm just seeking a level of comfort that the ramping up will be delivered, given that June doesn't feel that far away.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for the question, Councillor Grimstone, and we're well rehearsed to answer this because Councillor Mason has asked us this question prior to the meeting, but I'll hand over to Daniel Haig to speak to our level of confidence around capital program delivery.
I'll just welcome, before I answer that question directly, just welcoming our CFO, who's now 8 days in with Council. We'll just get Alison to introduce herself and do a brief introduction, and then I'll come back to that specific question.
Kia ora tātou. So, as just alluded to by Dan, this is my first council meeting. I've just been here for over a week, and so during that time I've been getting across the financial position at the high level and working very closely with the finance team to understand the current performance. So from what I can tell in the overall performance report, we appear as council to be tracking broadly in line with budget. We've got a modest positive variance currently forecast, and debt is remaining within those long-term plan limits. So just in terms of the capital front question that's been asked, the forecast spend at the end of January is at 41 million. I do understand from conversations with staff that about 8 million of that is at risk due to timing, in particular the Levin Town Centre investment project, which is likely to be deferred until the following financial year. But for all of the detail on the capital side, I'm going to hand over to Dan.
Yeah, so at the end of the reporting period, January, we'd spent 13 million of 41. I think at the heart of your question is how are we going to turn that around to land at that $41 million at the end of financial year. The answer to that is, since then we've spent $3 million through February. We expect a number of projects to ramp up, and so what we've determined is that remaining $24 million we've put into two buckets. So one bucket we've called highly certain, so those are projects the likes of the land transport program, the work around EWA to finalise land agreements, the Okarito stormwater, which has been now awarded, the downstream stormwater interceptor at Queen Street where works are imminent, and the remainder of our normal capital works program, the water main renewals and the like. So that totals up to 16 million. So that's where we're saying there's a high level of confidence. The remaining 8 million, we're saying that's less certain. Well, it's very uncertain. So 4.7 of that relates to the town centre. So either will or won't happen, and council will be part of that decision-making process. And the other 1.8 sits across community infrastructure projects, the likes of Three Waters, minor renewals around treatment plants, work that will likely occur in the June, July, September period. So there will be some small carryovers on the minor projects. And then there's around about $1.5 million in the community infrastructure space relating to the Waikawa Bridge, 500k around cemeteries that may need to be brought forward, and that's awaiting some audit and planning review, and minor projects. So overall, that then puts us in a position where, as of today, we're expecting to land around about $34 million, probably +5, -2, so it's in that range, and we can absolutely come back with more certainty through the next OPR. Just conscious that at the heart of this is where do we get to deep dive and look under the hood.
Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just building on Councillor Grimstone's question, we have discussed in the past about getting that kind of global snapshot of capital delivery and having real clarity around what's spent, what's committed or contracted, and then what's in procurement. And I still think that would be something that if we could somehow work on a kind of a one-pager, whether it's part of our financial dashboard that comes to risk and assurance or through the OPR, just that one-page snapshot that kind of can provide that snapshot of where things are at. Because if it's committed or contracted or in procurement, you have a reasonable level of confidence that it's also going to, that's on track. So is that something we could perhaps look at and trial something for the next OPR? Sorry to just throw that out there on the table here, but be keen to sort of see what we could do.
Yes, a lot of our financial reporting comes out of our financial system, but what sits in behind that is a more detailed project management level where the team have spreadsheets with forecasts. So absolutely, we could roll that up into a one-pager. Perhaps even looking at scheduling a workshop to cover off where we expect to land at in the financial year, but also an insight into the annual plan budgets for 26, 27. So I can take an action around that to effectively cover off both.
It would be good. Thank you, Daniel. Councillor Mitchell-Kuta.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks to Councillor Grimstone and Jennings for those questions and examples of where we can possibly go. I really appreciate that. I just wanted to say, are we keeping in mind the possibility, especially in infrastructure, of costs increasing because of the global impact and how that's going to impact us moving forward? Because that's actually massive. That could possibly make or break certain projects that we might be pursuing, and I'm sure that is being kept in mind. But yeah,
CapEx wise, limited impact this financial year because the majority of those projects have been committed and contracted, and there is certain clauses around escalation of fuel prices that are capped. Moving forward, if it was to be longer duration, it would be something that we'd have to start to factor into those budgets moving forward. But I think it also highlights a key point that we were tracking towards a $1 million surplus in our operational costs this year, and due to the storm events that impacted us in recent months, we reported in the OPR around 653k surplus, so a lot of that was driven by savings in contracts and also revenue in solid waste. But just further review through the last month, we're expecting that to be diminishing, and we're probably tracking closer to 400k. So when you start to add in additional fuel costs, additional costs for chemicals, that may hit in the coming months. It does mean that that impact is starting to take toll.
Councillor Grimstone.
Daniel, this potentially is one for you again. So look, I just referenced in the report you've made commentary relative to the Levin landfill contaminated groundwater remediation, where the commentary in there provides the installation of additional groundwater sampling and real-time Hokio stream sampling is presently being investigated to determine if there are presently unknown peaks of concentration levels. Where are we at in terms of that investigation, in terms of when would we expect for that information to be presented back to council to consider what those options are looking like?
There's been fairly strong direction from council already to progress with that work. We have yesterday received the estimate of costs for external consultancy. A lot of this work would be delivered in-house, and expecting to meet with the team this week, also with the project management group later in the week. We've been engaging also with the neighbourhood liaison group to try and give them an insight into what that would likely look like. So once that's all tidied up, expect in the coming weeks we could provide an update to elected members. It may not necessarily require a full workshop. It would be perhaps around just sharing what that plan looks like for the next 12 months and some indicative costs which have been budgeted. So if you're hearing the message, you'd like to know where it's got to, and very close around the advanced monitoring framework.
Also, just in reference to the pot, and my question's gone, but it was essentially reference to the abatement notice in the 30th of March. So my assumption is our operational report is written in advance of the council agenda. So given 30th of March is pending, I was just seeking assurance that we are in a position to respond in time for that 30th of March abatement notice.
Council have completed an emerging contaminant strategy, and that looks at things that are tested outside the norm in terms of pesticides or PFAS and the likes. So we've completed a strategy, we've undertaken testing to ensure that complies. That was one of the matters. The next one was completion of an annual plan, which document landed at somewhere around 14,500 words. It's been drafted, finalised, it's been shared with iwi partners through the engagement review panel. There's a narrow window for feedback, but we will be providing that to Horizons before the due date. And then the third piece is around some work with the Wairere enhancement strategy. So we are engaging with iwi partners around that. There's been a framework developed, but we do need to meet with Horizons, which is happening at an operational level this week, just to ensure that we're on the same page around how we provide the time and space to complete that work. So yes, on track to respond, and that the Wairere enhancement strategy proposal will be formalised post that discussion with Horizons.
Just sorry,
This one is just in relation to community infrastructure. Noted that 22 out of 23 playgrounds were inspected, just with a note in relation to Mōpuku Park. So, given Mōpuku Park has now been reopened to the public and the Rahui lifted, are we retaining responsibility of also in future carrying out those monthly inspections?
Yes.
Any further questions? Daniel Ellison, it may not be the day to answer this, but in terms of the carryover of the CapEx, I'd be curious to understand what our debt position will then be at the end of the financial year, but noting that we are going to be signing off an annual budget in May, there's a bit of time lapse between the two. So just want to understand, I suppose, the impact that carryover might have on our budget and understanding, the costs and either benefits or otherwise of that carryover. And also, does it mean that we need to relook at our capital expenditure for the following financial year in terms of because we've got so much carryover?
So, great question. So one of the things, and it's coming back to the question that we had over here around the geopolitical environment, we do need to turn our mind to, if we take carry forwards over, what might that therefore mean in terms of the inflation impacts of that, any of those additional costs. So we'll keep a close eye on that, and yes, happy to come back with some more detail.
Thank you. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question for the team around O2NL, and we've obviously discussed at previous council meetings our engagement with NZTA on revocation, but I just wondered whether there was any further update or information you wanted to provide to supplement what's in the OPR.
Councillor Jennings, were you asking for a specific resolution about that?
Just understanding if there's anything further that you wanted to add in relation to the update that's provided around our ongoing engagement with NZTA around the revocation agreement, revocation principles or that process.
We are constructively and positively working with NZTA to ensure the very best outcome for our community, and we will in time be briefing councillors on how we can best position HDC in that space, but no further update at this stage, Councillor Jennings.
Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Burney, and just apologies I didn't foreshadow this question earlier with staff, but I just want to say thank you for the OPR, it's fantastic. And there on page 23 of the OPR, or 200 of the agenda, it talks about the customer service training, frontline training, strengthening that training for staff using Council's customer service system CRM, but then further down in the report, I think it's page 203, it talks about, or I don't know if I've got the right page, talks about the uplift of Anteno and the use of Anteno, and that we have increased the uptake of Anteno by 15.8% to 667 people, which is good, but do we have a plan for increasing the uptake even more? Because we've just had the conversation this morning about communication with public and with ways that people can connect with council, and that seems like a great place to do it, but is there a plan for increasing uptake?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Mason, through you, Your Worship. Yes, there is. Customer and community first is one of our priorities, and we have a group across the organisation who are working towards Anteno as one of those priorities for that group. We do have our comms team who do have a marketing plan in place around how we get that out there, and you might have seen on social media quite a number of posts around encouraging people to download Anteno. Keep it up, keep encouraging people to download Anteno.
Incumbent on councillors in the forums that they are involved in to try and encourage people to download Anteno. We actually had a bit of an overview at Older Persons Network as well, which was well received, and I'm sure some of that 15% hopefully came from that explanation. So any further questions or discussion on the OPR? Councillor Grimstone? No. Good to see.
I'll points for most questions
Exactly.
from me on the OPR today. I was so busy with questions to just acknowledge the most exciting piece for me of reading the OPR report was the work or the preliminary investigations into the resource recovery facility. And obviously the surrounding work that's being done around our solid waste management piece. So just recognising the work that officers are putting into exploring different ways of managing our waste is quite exciting. So thank you.
While we're doing acknowledgements, can I just acknowledge the building team as well for the consistent improvement in terms of timelines and timeframes that consents are done. It is great to see, and I know that part of the business is always under pressure resource-wise, and so to maintain that consistent standard and be again endorsed by the authority for what we're doing is great to see. So thank you, Leah. All right. Thank you, Alison. Thank you, Dan. We're now moving to 8.2, which is the Council Resolution and Actions Monitoring Report for March 2026. Recommendation is that Council receive and note this report. Mover and a second, please. Deputy Mayor Allen and Councillor Fox, all those in favour? Against? Carried. Any items on this report that councillors wish to bring up? Great to see that there are many green colours contained in this report, and that by the end of the financial year we will see a number of them disappear, which is good to see. All right, 8.3, the long-term plan 2024-44 actions monitoring report. I'll move that this report be received, seconded by Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Again, any items on this report? It's now getting shorter and shorter, which is again good to see. All right, moving to 9.1. The proceedings of the Risk and Insurance Committee from the 11th of February 2026. The recommendation is the report of that meeting be received and noted. Moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Again, if councillors have any items in these minutes that they wish to ask about or seek clarification on, please do so. 9.2, the proceedings of the Te Awaho Foxton Community Board from the 23rd of February 2026. These minutes be received and noted. Moved by Deputy Mayor Allen, seconded by Councillor Fox.
Speaking to that,
You may speak to that. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it was my privilege to attend the first meeting of the Community Board and to note that it was an extremely positive meeting. I think we have a board that we can be very proud of. They're very committed to advancing the interests of Foxton. In particular, I refer to the resolution on page 325, where they adopted their priorities, their 3 priorities. And it's no coincidence, I think, that there is a really close fit between their priorities and those of the council. So that, for example, where council has as a priority going for growth, the community board uses the phrase about unlocking growth. Where council talks about being future fit, Te Awaho Foxton Community Board talks about leadership of Foxton futures, with the key word being futures. So it's about that future fit too. So the board really has 3 priorities which have a complementarity. Did I just say that? I don't know quite how that happened, with council, and both in terms of number, but more importantly with scope, with the actual details. And I want to finish, Mr. Mayor, by saying that on Monday in a workshop with the board, they got down to the real grunty stuff about you've got these priorities. Looking back in 3 years' time, what will be real about those priorities? What will be the tangible outcomes? And that was a very rich discussion. And so it's not just having the ethereal priorities, but it's about what it looks like on the ground. So great start to the session with the Foxton Community Board.
Can I echo those words? It was nice to be there as well, and to see the engagement and interaction between the members of the community board. And while it was the very first meeting for the triennium for this board, I just want to acknowledge the work that has gone in and the number of workshops and different things that they have done in terms of getting their priorities and in terms of assigning roles and getting it is a really positive and constructive start for them. And while it's a relatively new board, there's some really great diversity and experience in terms of the board members, so I think it augurs well for the rest of the term for them. So thank you. Let's move to 9.4, which is the proceedings of the Community Wellbeing Committee from the 25th of February. Recommendations. Oh, did I miss 9.3? There's too many tabs on my agenda. Sorry, I've started 9.4. I'm going to go back to 9.3, all right? That the report from the proceedings of the Community Wellbeing Committee of the 25th of February of those minutes be received and noted. Moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Mitchell-Kutab.
I speak to this.
You may speak to that, Councillor Mason.
Briefly, and thank you. And thank you for appointing me as Chair of the Community Wellbeing Committee. You will see it's referred to both here and in the OPR on page 189 of the agenda. The Community Wellbeing Committee has the purpose of collective leadership, advocacy and holistic outcomes that enable the population of Aotearoa to be well together. It's made up of iwi representatives, community networks, government and community sector representatives. I want to acknowledge the work of Mayor Burney, Councillor Grimstone and Councillor Hori Te Pā in the previous triennium with the Community Wellbeing Committee. And I also want to acknowledge the work that's been done on the strong community strategies. As noted, Councillor Mitchell-Kutab sits on that committee as well. But in the first meeting in this triennium, we had representatives from networks, which was incredibly exciting to have Leo Marshall from Access and Inclusion, Keisha Wall from Youth Networks and Grant Congdon from Education present directly from the network meetings. We also spent some time setting a direction of travel for areas of priority for 2026, as is noted there in the report. And driven by some of the issues that we know that are facing us, a connected and safe community was one of the directions of travel. Emergency preparedness, and again we see that referred to in the OPR on page 188, the need to bring and highlight emergency preparedness amongst our community. The focus on health, on employment and homelessness and vulnerable housing. I also want to acknowledge the officers and the energy and effort they've brought to the Community Wellbeing Committee together with producing reports and attending the meeting, and for their shared dedication to the goals of the Community Wellbeing Strategy. Thank you, Mayor Burney.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Great summary. Put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. All right, moving back to 9.3, the proceeding of the Chief Executive Employment and Performance Committee from the 18th of February. I'll move that these minutes be received and noted, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our formal agenda. We just now are moving to public excluded, and I'll move that we move to public excluded to discuss C1, the proceedings of the Risk and Assurance Committee from the 11th of February, C2, the proceedings of the Procurement Review Group meeting of the 10th of March, and C3, Council Resolution Actions Monitoring Report, and C4, the proceedings of the Chief Executive Employment and Performance Committee from the 18th of February. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll just take a 5-minute break and adjourn the meeting. Thank you to the members of the